He's talking about something that is objectively true. And you want to know why he knows it's objectively true? Because his dad literally fucking did that. Okay? That was his dad's job. It's so crazy that he's like talking about this shit, but it's for like nonsensical stuff. Like, yeah, it's clear that the media is working as a part of the state apparatus. Why? To make your kid gay. It's like, no, man, that's not what they're fucking doing, dumbass. If anything, that's the one aspect of it that is to make liberals fucking feel like they actually do have the best interest or progressive interests in mind. It's the World Economic Forum shit all over again. This is what is very frustrating about conservatives being the only group of individuals that actually adopt leftist economic populism simply for propaganda purposes. And the guy who did it before Tucker was Adolf fucking Hitler. They're doing it again. I'm losing my fucking mind. It's literally, it's so cynical. It drives me fucking insane. That's why they're called National Socialists. Wait, who is that guy? Adolf Hitler? He's a guy. Just some dude. Do you not believe that the WEF is trying to exude influence? They have board members in high-ranking positions in multiple governments. No, dummy. I'm saying that the World Economic Forum is a liberal institution. So when they talk about like, oh, we got to do more social safety nets, or we got to make sure everyone's gay or whatever the fuck, that's just seasoning for liberals. But it's just a reinforcement of capitalist hegemony. It's not a socialist institution. It's bad, but for the same reasons that like Davos is bad, for the same reasons that BlackRock is bad, but it's not just BlackRock. It's all the fucking Republican politicians that are also holding up that same exact order. Tucker Carlson being yet another person who does that. That's what's frustrating, that like right-wingers would be like, yeah, I hate Big Pharma, which is why I'm voting for the Republican Party. The fuck? Bro, the reason why you hate Big Pharma is because of the Republican Party and the liberals as well, certainly, but goddamn, dude. That's how powerful liberal hegemony is. That's how important it is. That motherfuckers who even hate the masters are just like using all their time and energy and anger towards like undocumented immigrants at the fucking border, dude. Yeah, those are the guys who made Big Pharma the way it is. Oh. Can you talk about how always looking for bad guys to blame instead of recognizing the logics of systems such as neoliberalism and imperialism is reactionary and leads to diagonalism such as Tucker and Bannon, such as the ones that Tucker and Bannon stoke? I mean, yeah, if you're not looking at the structures and recognizing that this is designed this way. Bro, you yapping so hard. Is there anyone on Twitch with political content that I can go over to? I don't know. I'm sure there are, brother. Maybe you'll find it.
And I'm not guessing because I spent my entire life in that world. 33 years I worked in big news companies. And so I know how it works. I know the people involved in it. I could name them. Ben Smith of Semaphore, among many others. And I find that really objectionable. Not just on principle either, in effect, in practice. I don't want to live in that kind of country. And people are like, they externalize all of their anxiety about this, I have noticed. So it's like, Russia's not free. Yeah, I know. You know, neither's, you know, Burkina Faso. Like most countries aren't free, actually, but we are. We're the United States. We're different.
This is why it's like fucking, yeah, okay, dog. Sure. The profit motive is and always will be their god, and they have just figured out that they can sprinkle in these liberal social takes, e.g. pride flag, something every June. Conservatives do the same thing by pretending to care about populist economic issues.
And that's my concern. Preserving that is my concern. And so they get so exercised about what's happening in other parts of the world, places they've never been, know nothing about. It's almost a way of ignoring what's happening in their own country right around them. I find it so strange and sad and weird.
So the NSA was tracked.
You told people to vote Democrat. How are you any different than the guy voting Republican against Big Pharma? Well, at least the fucking Democratic Party, to a certain degree, lies about being anti-Big Pharma. The Republican Party doesn't even do that. The fuck? And it's not even because I fucking think that the Democratic Party is going to do something about Big Pharma that I say vote Democrat.
Tracking you? Do you think CIA was? Is people still tracking you?
Look, one of the things I did before I went, just because of the business.
Also, I think he wasn't here for the past like 4 hours out of the 6 where I was just like absolutely comstering the Democratic Party.
I'm in, all of us are in, and just because we live here, we all have theories about secure communications channels. Like Signal is secure, Telegraph isn't, or WhatsApp is owned by Mark Zuckerberg. You can't trust it. Okay. So I thought, before I go over here, I was getting all this, we're having all these conversations, my producers and I, about this. And I decided, I'm just gonna actually find out like what's really going on. So I talked to 2 people who would know, trust me. And it's all I can say. And I hate to be like, I talk to people who would know, but I can't do there, but I mean it. Mm-hmm. They would know. And both of them said exactly the same thing, which is, are you joking? Nothing is secure. Mm-hmm. Everything is monitored all the time. If state actors are involved, I mean, you can keep the, the Malaysian mafia from reading your text, probably. You cannot keep the big intel services from reading your text. It's not possible.
Yeah, the guy he was talking to was his dad, which I will keep mentioning, was in the fucking CIA. Was the CIA. Matt Lieb doesn't know it, but he's giving you props here. I don't know who coined the term debate fervors to describe Destiny and his hogs, but you deserve a medal. It is a good take. That's a retweet, baby.
Any of them, or listening to your calls. So, and that was the firm conclusion of people who've been involved in it, for a long time, decades, in both cases. So I just thought, you know what? I don't care. I don't care. I'm not sending a ton of naked pictures of myself to anybody.
Not a ton, just a little.
Not a ton. I'm 54, dude. Probably not too many.
All right.
But you see, so I'm like, I'm just, so the guys, I travel with 3 people I work with who I love, who I've been around the world with for many years, and I know them really, really well. And they all got, separate phones, and I'm leaving my other phone back in New York or whatever. And I just decided I don't care.
Bro, he needs Huawei phones, dog. That's what you need. Little does he know.
Actually, and I resent having to no privacy, because privacy is a prerequisite for freedom. But I can't change it, and so I have the same surveilled cell phone. And I do switch them out because there it is. Because if you have too much spyware on your phone, this is true, it wrecks the battery. And no, I'm serious. It does. And it was, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, we went to North Korea.
Was right. What is this?
And my phone started acting crazy. And so I talked to someone on the National Security Council who called me about this, somehow knew that your phone is being surveilled by the South Korean government. I was like, I like the South Korean government. Why would they do that? Because they want more information. They thought I was talking to Trump or whatever. So, but I could tell because all of a sudden the thing would just drain in like 45 minutes. So that's a downside.
So you keep switching phones, getting new phones for the battery life. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, I try not to do it. I'm kind of flinty Yankee type in some ways, so I don't like to spend $1,000 with a freaking Apple corporation too often. But yeah, I do.
I mean, you say it lightly, but it's really troublesome that you as a journalist would be tracked.
Well, they leaked it to Semaphore and they leaked it to the New York Times. Look, I would even put up, well, there's nothing I can do, so I have to put up with everything, okay? But I would probably not be actively angry about being surveilled because I'm just so old and I actually do pay my taxes. I'm not sleeping with the makeup artist or whatever, so I don't care that much. The fact that they are leaking against me, that the intel services in the United States are actively engaged in U.S. politics and media, that's so unacceptable. That makes democracy impossible. There's no defense of that. And yet NBC News, Ken Delanian, and the rest will defend it. And it's like, and not just on NBC News, by the way, on the supposedly conservative channels too, they will defend it. And there's no defending that. You can't have democracy if the intel services are tampering in elections and information, period.
So you had no fear. Your lawyer said, be careful which questions you asked. You said, I don't have.
Well, the lawyer said, no, he said very specifically, if, depending on the questions you ask Putin, you could be arrested or not. And I said, listen to what you're saying. You're saying the U.S. government has control over my questions and they'll arrest me if I ask the wrong question? How are we better than Putin if that's true? And by the way, that's just what the lawyer said, but I can't overstate one of the biggest law firms in the United States, smart lawyers we've used for years. So I was really shocked by it.
You said leaders kill, leaders lie.
Yeah. I don't believe in leaders very much. This whole Zelensky's Jesus and Putin's Satan. It's no, they're all leaders of countries, okay? Grow up a little bit, you child. Have you ever met a leader? First of all, anyone who seeks power.
Have you ever met a leader? Yeah, no, dude. I have not. What the fuck? No, I have not met a leader. What the fuck? He just said that so casually. Does bro think we're meeting global leaders on a regular basis? What the fuck? Grow up, you child. Have you not met a global leader?
Power is damaged morally, in my opinion. You shouldn't be seeking power. You can't seek power or wealth for its own sake and remain a decent person. That's just true. So there aren't any really virtuous billionaires and there aren't any really virtuous world leaders. You have grades of virtue. Some are better than others for sure. But I mean, in other words, Zelensky may be better than Putin. I'm open to that possibility. But to claim that one is evil and the other is virtuous, it's you're revealing that you're a child. You don't know anything about how.
I hate that he's not wrong. I just fucking, like I said, I think I despise Tucker Carlson more when I agree with him. That's what really is annoying about it.
The world actually is, or what reality is.
That's quite a realist perspective, but there is a spectrum.
There's a spectrum. Absolutely. I'm not saying they're all the same. They're not.
And our task is to figure out where on the spectrum they lie. And the leader's task is to confuse us and convince us they're one of the good guys.
Of course. But I actually reject even that formulation. I don't think it's always about the leaders. I mean, of course, the leaders make the difference. A good leader has a healthy country and a bad leader has a decaying country, which is something to think about.
Do I think he's disingenuous? Yes. I don't believe that there's an honest bone in this man's body. Yes. I think he is a profoundly cynical American, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant nationalist, a WASP nationalist through and through. And I do think that he says everything for a purpose. He's a master manipulator. And I do think that he has he's dangerous because I do think that he is less of a mercenary and more of a ideologically minded person in the sense that I think he's doing, or maybe he is still a mercenary. I don't know. I used to think his economic populism was an act specifically to launder, because he knows that that act, especially when coming from the right, will read very well to an infinitely more receptive audience, because they've already welcomed him in. They're always going to be charitable to him. So when you have that level of charitability in the Republican right, you can get away with saying truthful things and people will be like, oh yeah, he is right, actually. And he's right about this, so he's definitely right about the immigrants are coming in to rape our daughters take. As a matter of fact, I think the immigrants are coming in to rape our daughters take is the reason why they are more charitable to him. But ultimately, I think he cares more about the nationalism aspect significantly more than he cares about the economic left-wing populist aspect. He doesn't care about that at all, as a matter of fact. I think he's just a talking point. Yeah, he's a very savvy racist.
But it's about the ideas and the policies and the practical effect of things. So we're very much caught up in the personalities of various leaders, not just our political leaders, but our business leaders, our cultural leaders. Are they good people? Do they have the right thoughts? It's like, no, I ask a much more basic question. What are the fruits of their behavior? And I always make it personal because I think everything is personal. Does his wife respect him? Do his children respect him? How are they doing? Is the country he runs thriving, or is it falling apart? If your life...
Okay, see, this is why it's not grounded in like dialectics at all. He's like, yeah, I care more about whether a leader's wife respects them or their children respect them or if their country is thriving. First of all, I wouldn't say either of these countries are thriving, neither Russia nor Ukraine. So on that front, it's like, I don't know. And secondly, I don't, like, who gives a fuck if your wife respects you, dude? What are you saying? That's why everything falls apart.
expectancy is going
So he likes Xi by that logic? Yeah, he hates Xi.
down, if your suicide rate is going up, if your...
That was my unironic favorite part of that interview, where he was like, he had to sit there and talk about how sick China is. That, and also the part where Putin straight up to his face was like, said that he was too stupid to join the CIA, that the CIA rejected him.
Your standard of living is tanking. You're not a good leader. I don't care what you tell me. I don't care what you claim you represent.
Tucker Carlson talking about Hitler's war economy pre D-Day. Not even pre D-Day, but like, man, his wife seemingly respects him. His dog respects him. Seems like he's won the admiration of the German folk. Seems like the German economy is doing well in a brief period. Many are saying it's just for a brief period, but perhaps Hitler was a respected individual by Tucker Carlson's standards. 1932 to 1938.
Then I don't
What's going
care
on?
about the ideas or the systems that you say you embody. It's dogs barking to me. How's your life expectancy? How's your suicide rate? What's drug use like? Are people having children? Are people's children more likely to live in a freer, more prosperous society than you did and their grandparents?
You're just straight up fascist, bro. I swear to
Like,
God.
those are the only measures that matter to me. The rest is a lie. But anyway, the point is, we just get so obsessed with like the theater around people or people, and we miss the bigger things that are happening, and we allow ourselves to be deceived into thinking that what doesn't matter at all matters, that moral victories are all that matters. No, actually, facts on the ground victories matter more than anything. I mean, you certainly see it in this country. Black Lives Matter, for example. How many black people did that help? It hurt a lot of black people, but in the end, we should be able to measure it. You know, like how many black people have died by gunfire in the 4 years since George Floyd died? Well, the number's gone way, way up. And that was a Black Lives Matter operation, defund the police. So I think we can
See? Told you. He brings you in with all this other shit, and then he hits the notes that he actually cares about. Pure fascist demagogue right there. that's what he actually gives a shit about. Okay?
Say, as a factual matter, a data-based matter, Black Lives Matter didn't help black people. And if it did, tell me how. Well, these are important moral victories. I'm over that.
It's like Black Lives Matter was instantly robbed of any kind of radical revolutionary politics it might have had by first the Democratic Party. It was neutered by the Democratic Party, and it was still destroyed by the Republicans regardless. The entire goal overall was to greatly offer police accountability against all people, by the way, not just black people, regardless of what the dumbass white supremacist grifters say. And he's like, yeah, it didn't happen. It went nowhere. It's like, yeah, you're right. That's their fault. I guess him and Barack Obama are on board on that line of not liking BLM.
That's just another lie, a long litany of lies. So I try to see the rest of the world that way. But more than anything, I try to see world events through the lens of an American, because I am one. And what does this mean for us? And it's not even the war, it's the sanctions that will forever change the United
Like, it'd be nice if Lex here would cut in and be like, well, regardless of the actual, like, Tucker, I want to know what your position is. Do you think that their goals ultimately, because you're saying, like, regardless of the moral victory or whatever, do you think that those goals were justifiable? What do you think BLM's goals were? Because its failure is apparent, but its failure is caused by the fact that it was against the dominant white supremacist hierarchy. Anyway.
United States, our standard of living, the way our government operates, that more than any single thing in my lifetime screwed the United States.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing a great job of showing all of the failures of capitalism and then arriving so close to the answer only to turn around and be like, it's actually BLM and immigrants that are causing this collapse. That's it. That's the point. Because I'm a firm believer that every single American has like some level of understanding and some level of anger towards like corporations and whatnot, right? That's why you hear these like right wingers who fucking talk about, how they hate big pharma. But instead of getting mad at big pharma, what do? They're like, oh, I'm an anti-vaxxer. Why am I an anti-vaxxer? Because corporations want me to get vaccinated. That must mean it's wrong to get vaccinated. Not realizing that, like, no, you must get vaccinated because cattle get vaccinated in the same way. Technically, it's good for you, even if it aligns with the interests of corporations. They just don't want you to fucking die on the job, or they want you to be able to recover way faster so you can get back to the fucking field of work. They're too stupid to understand that, though, that the interests converge in that front. But that resentment ultimately still exists. What they fail to recognize, though, is that, wow, way off take? What do you mean? What was off about that? I think ultimately, that resentment still exists. It's very impossible. It's impossible not to be resentful. Just like it's impossible not to be resentful of the rich, especially when you're suffering. You know what I mean? Why wouldn't you be? Why wouldn't you be resentful of the wealthy when you're fucking suffering and like some random dickhead Twitch streamer is living the life of luxury that you will most likely never be able to achieve? Doors open. What the fuck? Oh, it's not. Hold on. Aren't you a multimillionaire? Yes, dumbass. I'm talking about myself. I'm talking about someone, multimillionaire. I'm talking about someone who is well off in comparison to the average person. Doors open now. Oh, sorry. Talking about why people have resentment towards people who are affluent, people who are wealthy. I understand that resentment. My point is, you're getting upset at the wrong person. You're getting upset at someone who, despite his successes, is still telling you how the structures are and why you're in the particular conditions that you're in and how you can at least make material changes in your life that'll be a little bit better for you. Okay? Why are you doing that? Because I'm accessible. Much easier to fucking come in here and yell at me than it is to, like, you know, I guess dismantle capitalist structures.
Levying those sanctions in the way that we did was crazy. And that for me, the main takeaway from my 8 days in Moscow was not Putin. He's a leader, whatever. None of them are that different, actually, in my pretty extensive experience. No, it was Moscow. That blew my mind. I was not prepared for that at all. And I thought I knew a lot about Moscow. My dad worked there on and off in the 80s and 90s because he's a U.S. government employee, and he was always coming back.
Why won't he say CIA, man? Your dad was CIA.
Moscow, it's a nightmare and all this stuff, no electricity. I got there almost exactly 2 years after sanctions, totally cut off from Western financial systems, kicked out of SWIFT, can't use US dollars, no banking, no credit cards. And that city, just factually, I'm not endorsing the system, I'm not endorsing the whole country. I didn't go to Lake Baikal. You know, I didn't go to Turkmenistan. I just went to Moscow, largest city in Europe, 13 million people. I drove all around it. And that city is way nicer, outwardly anyway, I don't live there, than any city we have by a lot. And by nicer, let me be specific. No graffiti, no homeless, no people using drugs in the street, totally tidy, no garbage on the ground. And
I do think it's kind of wild where he talks about Russia and he talks about how there's like no drugs and no poverty. I didn't see it. It's like fucking going unironically. I know that this is the Daily Show joke, but it is like going to fucking DPRK and being like, dude, no, like people are eating fucking hamburgers every day. Like the DPRK is doing significantly better, all things considered, in comparison to where it was during periods of mass famine, and their conditions are the way they are as a consequence of global sanctions and American imperialism. Having said that, however, you're only doing propaganda if you fucking, you know, you're doing left book style propaganda for DPRK. Anyway.
no forest of steel and concrete soul destroying buildings, none of the postmodern architecture that oppresses us without even our knowledge.
Like, I went to Beverly Hills. I didn't see a single homeless person. What's going on? Is gruesome Governor Gavin Newsom doing a phenomenal job in California Oblast? Seems like the streets are clean. Not a single homeless person were anywhere to be seen. No drug use. You know? Yeah, dude, that's how it works, okay? That's how it fucking works, dog.
None of that crap. It's a truly beautiful city. And that's not an endorsement of Putin. And by the way, it didn't make me love Putin. It made me hate my own leaders. Because I grew up in a country that had cities kind of like that were nice cities, that were safe. And we don't have that anymore. And
What?
How did that happen?
Okay, there has never been a moment in the United States history where cities have been safer than they are now. This does not mean that America is devoid of problems, but you are fucking insane for saying that. There has never been a single moment. The safest moment for living in a city is right now. And an even safer moment will be a year from now if things continue the way that they are. That is fucking delusional. Holy shit. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing Americans that our safest and richest big city is actually a war zone. Yeah, New York City's homicide rate is 4.8 per 100K. Alabama's homicide rate is 15.9 per 100K. More than 3 times that of New York City. American cities are pretty bad, bro. No, the fuck they're not. What are you talking about? American cities are bad as a consequence of no fucking the